Hi, I'm Carey Campbell. Welcome to Green TV, the show that focuses on independent Green Party and Green Party candidates and positive Green New Deal solutions, eco-jobs for the economy, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, rail jobs, efficiency jobs. With me on the show today is Kate Alexandrova, and from Richmond, Delegate Joseph Morrissey. Joe is in the process of running for re-election to the House of Delegates in Virginia. Joe, welcome to Green TV.
Thanks, Carey. Nice to be with both of you today.
Joe, let's take a look, if we could now, at our tax dollars. $900 billion roughly in the biennial budget, only about 17% appearing to go to transportation. What area of the state budget have you focused most of your efforts on, Delegate Morrissey?
As I said it earlier, although I've taught law school and high school, and I've been a member of the Education Committee for about 7.5 years, and very familiar with that, I'm also very dialed in to our transportation infrastructure in the Commonwealth. You just hit on a great point. You said that only 17% of those tax dollars are earmarked for transportation. And we're probably 6 to 7 points shy of what we need to be for two reasons. We've got to maintain the existing infrastructure, but we've got to build an infrastructure for 21st century Virginians. And that's going to include, high-speed rail, maybe elevated rail. I've seen that happen in Europe and Australia. They are ahead of us. We need to catch up. And I'll give you one clear example. I lived in Ireland, in Dublin, Ireland, for 3 years. They talked a long time about building a rail system in Dublin itself, and they put it off and they put it off. They finally did it. And even though it cost them a lot more because they had delayed, everybody, opponents included, said, we made a mistake by not putting more Dublin, Ireland tax dollars into this rail infrastructure system. I see us right now in Virginia, the same place. If we don't do it now, we will do it down the road, and it will cost us exponentially more money. So that's why I say we've got to increase from 17% to probably 23 to 25% of our tax dollars into transportation, including high-speed rail.
You're watching Green TV with Delegate Joe Morrissey of the 74th District of the House of Delegates in Richmond, and with us on the show, of course, co-host Kate Alexandrova. Big news out of California, rail-wise right now, is the new high-speed rail that has been launched. Kate, if you want to tell us more about that, please.
Well, California broke ground in Fresno on its profit-making high-speed rail project. It's a key milestone. More trains, less traffic. California high-speed rail is a job creator and a lifesaver. The California 800-mile high-speed rail will save lives and grow the economy. California raised nearly $1 billion from
building from the taxpayers for building the high-speed rail. We've just lost the script on there, Kate. You can see if you can get it back. That's pretty funny. Joe, the key point about California high-speed rail is it's going to create, every dollar invested in high-speed rail creates $20 in revenue and economic benefit. Of course, rail increases the value of our homes, businesses, and communities, and rail grows revenue for our schools, our police, our fire departments, and first and foremost, rail saves lives.
Well, I must note that California High-Speed Rail Authority has enjoyed victories in recent months. One of 7 environmental lawsuits was settled in December after the Rail Authority agreed to find an alternative route through the city of Bakersfield. In October, California Supreme Court declined to hear a lawsuit challenging the project's funding. And in 2008, that's more than 7 years ago, Californian voters approved nearly $10 billion in bonds to kickstart the high-speed rail, estimated to eventually cost $68 billion.
It's about creating jobs, Delegate Joe Morrissey, whether those jobs are in rail or eco jobs for the economy, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs. Delegate Morrissey, many folks have often talked about the significant power in Virginia of Dominion Power, and some have expressed concerns about the power company's renewable energy initiatives. You know, Joe, my own house is a plus house with geothermal heating and cooling and 51 solar panels. The house produces more energy than it consumes. The first year it was installed, 10 times the energy it consumes. Many folks in the Independent Green Party in Virginia have advocated just this for all of our homes, our businesses, and for our public buildings as well. What are some of the things that somebody who's watching today, Delegate Morrissey, can do to encourage the House of Delegates and you for legislation that's more green and creating more eco jobs for the economy?
Sure. Well, let's start out with this. As I tell people, I look at what I've already done. I introduced a bill to require electric utilities and distribution cooperatives to increase their renewable energy portfolios. If we do that and we create a higher percentage that have to be where electricity is produced through renewables, we are going in the long term going to reduce the cost to produce those renewables. I'll give you an example. I hear people say all the time, some of my detractors, they go, why do we want to have electric companies put more money into renewable portfolios? It's not efficient right now. Well, it might not be the most efficient right now, but if they continue to do that, it will in the long run. For example, imagine that we started building cars back in the 1900s, and instead of using petroleum, we had batteries, okay? And then along 100 years later, they said, you know what? Why don't we use fossil fuels, gasoline, to motor these vehicles? You'd say, well, that's not efficient. Let's keep going with the batteries. The point is, let's put our resources and our efforts into renewable energy portfolios. The cost will come down for creating energy through solar, tide, wind, turbine, biomass. The more efforts and more money we put into it, we will lower the cost, and we will find out that, whoa, look, all of a sudden, renewables is far less expensive than fossil fuels and a lot better for the environment. But we got to start by having folks like Dominion increase their renewable energy portfolios.
You're watching Green TV with Delegate Joe Morrissey running for re-election for House of Delegates in the 74th District of Virginia. Kate Alexandrova on the show with us today as well. Joe, of course, congratulations are in order to you as having been elected to a member of the Central Committee of the Independent Green Party of Virginia. Should you be re-elected to the House of Delegates, you'd be the first Independent Green Party Central Committee member to be elected there. That's got plenty of Independent Green Party folks excited about your endorsement, your nomination by the Independent Green Party, and also the election to the Central Committee. Joe,
I'm really excited, Carey. Let me tell you this. We had a chance to speak the other day, and I told you I lived in Europe, I lived in Australia, and the Independent Greens are thriving in Europe and Australia. Nothing I'd like better to see a third major party of Independent Greens, not only in the Commonwealth, but in the United States.
You're absolutely right. The Swedish Green Party is in a governing coalition right now. They just passed their budget there, as well as, of course, the German Green Party is in each of the state legislatures. It's governing in 8 of the 16 states. In Austria, the Green Party is governing in 6 of the 9 states, and all the opinion polls for the next year federal elections in Austria looks like the Green Party will assume federal government leadership as well. So it's on the upward trend, as well as the Scottish Green Party, the Green Party of Scotland, and the Green Party of the United Kingdom up in the polls in front of the Liberal Democrats. They'll be voting in the United Kingdom in the spring. So very promising polling and promising election results for the Green Party worldwide. And where you were, Joe, in Ireland as well as Australia, the Green Party has governed there in federal governing coalitions and just elected this past year in Australia a new Green Party senator in Australia. So there are many signs of success for the Green Party worldwide, as well as the recent Japanese election, where the Green Party in Japan did well in local and city elections.
We need to catch up in the United States, Carey.
That's absolutely.
We need to put more green candidates in elective office in our state houses, in our governor's mansions throughout the country.
That's music to our ears. As we look ahead to those years, I want to get to in 2016, 2015, 2016, 2017. When we'll have state elections again in Virginia. I want to get to a discussion with you about the possibilities and opportunities for Joseph Morrissey and the Independent Green Party. Then, first, I want to just go back to a couple pieces of your legislation, Joe, that you brought in that you might tell us a bit more about. The Green Party was founded on term limits and rotation. Joe, you brought a measure before the state legislature for term limits. A lot of folks may not know our governor in Virginia can serve only one term and then must rotate out of office. But the House of Delegates and State Senate right now have no term limits. They can serve as long as they are reelected. Could you tell us about your term limits bill, Joe?
Sure. I thought you were going to say they can serve as long as they are breathing. Listen, everybody comes into legislatures, state senate, the House of Delegates with great ideas. They're infused with ideas that can make the Commonwealth better. But you know, like anything, there's a shelf life. I believe that 12 years in the House of Delegates or in the state senate is enough time to get your agenda approved. If you can't get what you want done in 12 years, maybe you need to let somebody else come in and try. Now, just look at our Fortune 500 companies. It's rare that a CEO in a Fortune 500 company stays more than 6 years. Not because the person isn't bright or doesn't have, or all of a sudden lost his or her initiative. It's because new people come in infused with a vision for the company, or in my case, the vision for the Commonwealth. So I proposed a limitation of 6 terms in the House. That would be 12 years, or 3 terms in the Senate, also 12 years. Try to get as much as you want accomplished in 12 years, step back, and let a new generation step in there. And I'm going to continue to do that. Now, folks have asked me, what if your bill doesn't get passed? You know, will you still adhere to that term limit? And the answer is yes.
Oh my.
Joe, there was one advantage that you have over your rivals that you mentioned, and I'm really curious about that. You said that they had to spend 90% of their time dialing for dollars, whereas you spent 100% of your time speaking to your constituents. Can you tell us a little bit of what exactly you were talking about with them?
We've gone in this country, not just in local races and House legislature races, gubernatorial races, but you have people on the candidates on their phone dialing for money. They get the money in there, they send out a piece. Sometimes it's negative, often it's negative, and they spend very little time going door to door, as I think I've perfected in my district. I love campaign time. Speaking and reaching out and touching your constituents, whether it's on the phone or you're going door to door, is the best way to hear what they're thinking, to hear what they want done in the legislature. But unfortunately, we're in a system right now where you spend, 30 years ago, a house race cost $10,000. $10,000. Now we have house races costing $1 million. That's absurd. You only paid $18,000 a year to spend $1 million on a campaign every 2 years means that you're spending a year and a half raising money to run the next time instead of getting out and governing or introducing sound legislation. So that's right, Kate. I mentioned to Carey that my campaign is focused on talking to my constituents, not raising money to send out another negative mail piece.
You're watching Green TV with Delegate Joseph Morrissey of the 74th District, House of Delegates, and Kate Alexandrova. I'm Carey Campbell. We were just discussing Joe Morrissey's measure to impose term limits for members of the House of Delegates and for the state Senate. Joe, another proposal that you had that really caught the eye is the proposal for a 5-cent charge to protect the environment for plastic bags. Now, this has been instituted elsewhere around the country to great success. It's created revenue for uses in schools and for the public health. Tell us more about this proposal, if you would, Joe.
Sure, be happy to. Before I do that, let me just make one point about those term limits. Not surprising, the folks that have been there for 14, 16, 18 years, they don't agree with my term limits.
What kind of support did you pick up for it, Joe? Did you
they were not rallying to join my bill. But let me tell you about plastic bags. You know, I read a lot. I hear read about other people's successes. I introduced a bill that would impose a 5-cent tax for every plastic bag. That means you go into a store, and if you get 7 plastic bags that they put your goods into, they're going to charge you, 35 cents. Now, here's where I got that idea. Living in Ireland, they have a problem in Ireland. It's an island. There's only so much space to put your refuse, your trash. Their landfills were filling up with plastic bags. They wanted to stop that. They wanted to change people's habits. Instead of putting goods into plastic bags, they wanted to come in with a renewable cloth bag. So what they did is they instituted a 5-cent tax, and they encouraged people to buy cloth bags that they would bring with them, put their goods in there, and leave the store with them. Initially, people were resistant, but in time, people said, wait a second, instead of spending 5 cents for a bag every time I come into the store, I'm going to spend £1 on a cloth bag. And do you know that within 1 year, the amount of plastic bag usage in Ireland dropped by 90%?
That's an amazing statistic. That is absolutely astounding.
Right, and it wasn't done to raise revenue.
Astounding.
Carey, it was done to change people's habits. Now, all those plastic bags are no longer in landfills. You're saving petroleum from producing them. They're not getting into crops. They're not getting into the water system. And everybody knows that it takes 50 to 60 years for plastic bags to decompose. So it's a win-win situation all around. Fewer plastic bags. And I've tried to bring that same theory to the State House in Richmond. And surprisingly, or not, the chemical companies who produce these plastic bags are resisting my efforts. Go figure.
Well, there you have it. Folks, you're watching Green TV with Kate Alexandrova. I'm Carey Campbell, and we're fortunate to have with us today Delegate Joseph Morrissey, Fightin' Joe Morrissey of the 74th District House of Delegates in Richmond. Joe, as we look ahead to 2015 and the next legislative session, what are some of the positive solutions that we can bring to the Commonwealth?
Well, here's one that I had some limited success earlier. I wanted to limit the use of phosphorus in fertilizers and in de-icing agents because that phosphorus ends up in our iconic James River, for example, in Richmond. I introduced successfully a limitation on point source distribution of nitrogen, so we would put less nitrogen into the rivers. And we were successful there. What I'd love to do is could build on that. We talk every year about our beautiful Chesapeake Bay and getting back to the days, the glory days, when the Chesapeake Bay was full of fish and clams and oysters and crabs, and people could boat and enjoy the bay and not deal with the pollution. We're better today than we were last year, and better last year than we were 10 years before, but there's lots of progress that we need to take and make in order to continue. So I want to introduce legislation that will encourage people to do things on their own property that will prevent fertilizers and animal waste products from flowing in to our tributaries.
We want to thank Delegate Joe Morrissey, Joseph Morrissey, Fightin Joe, for being on Green TV with us today. Joe, I apologize for interrupting right there. We're down to just our close right now. Sir, thank you so much for being on the show. Kate Alexandrova, thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again.
It's a pleasure.
And we wish you luck, Joe, in that election. We look forward to seeing you again on Green TV, Joe Morrissey, and we look forward to seeing you. Stay with us on